Welcome back to the Uncial calligraphy class. This is the Uncial 2, and before we start writing the letters, there's one or two things that I didn't mention in the first video that I want to make sure that you understand. So, I believe I forgot to tell you that the letters are at a 90-degree to your writing line. They don't have a slope like the italics. They're basically straight. And some of the letters go above your waistline. Remember those names of the lines. And here's the examples right here. The D, the H, the K, and the L. Now some letters go below your writing line, and they are the F, the G, the J, Q, Y, both Y's, by the way, but the second Y does not go all the way down. It's about 3/4 to an inch, 3/4 to 1 nib height above your descender line. You can see here. And the P also does not go all the way down to that descender line. That's about half of a nib higher than your descender line. Also, if we look at this middle line here, you're going to notice that on the F, this cross stroke does not go on your writing line. It's just maybe about a half a nib higher than the writing line. And if you look at the Q, also this round part of the Q does not go all the way down to your writing line. So remember, it's these little minute details that are going to distinguish your letters from other alphabets, and it's certainly going to stand out a lot better. Okay. The rest of the letters fall between your waistline and your writing line. And they are A, B, C, E, I, M, both M's, N, O, R, S, T, both T's, the U and the V, the W, the X, and the Z. That being said, let's start writing these letters. So we're going to begin doing the letters, and I'm going to start with the oval group. Remember the video 1, I broke down the alphabets in family groups. We're going to do the C, the D, E, G, and O, which is basically oval. And before I start writing those letters, just a review on the pen that I'm using. This is a 3mm Elegant Writer, and it's roughly, it's not exactly these proportions, but it's pretty close to the proportions. But I just want you to know that the first two lines should be equivalent to 2 nibs width. The next two lines are 5 nibs widths. And then you have the bottom line, and that is 2 nibs. Now, if I was to mark this, you're going to see that it's not truly two full nibs, but for our purposes, this is going to be good enough. Otherwise, you would have to rule these lines to the exact specifications. But for the class, as long as you know what the proportions are, you can always learn to do these lines on your own. Okay, so let's start with that oval family. We start with the C. Remember, it's a 30-degree angle to the horizontal. And we start right below your waistline. Second stroke, and then just twist the pen. You'll get that little edge there. Now remember, you're working with a marker. It's not as clean cut as a pen and ink. But again, for our purposes, since we're beginners here, we're using the marker. Now, if you do work with pen and ink, feel free to do so. No problem there. In fact, it's really much better. Here comes the D. Right below the waistline again. Pick up the nib for the second stroke. But what you note that the D goes only about above your waistline, only about 1 pen height. And we'll start and we'll scoop around. Finish the D. The D does not go all the way up to the ascender line. It should be halfway up that line. We're going to make believe that these proportions are exactly what they should be. 2 nibs for the top. So technically the D goes right in the middle. Okay, the next letter is the E. Start underneath. Remember that 30 degrees around. Okay, now also on the E, don't do this cross stroke on the branching line. On the branching line, it's about 1. I'm not going to mark it there because we're going to ruin the letter, but it goes roughly about 1 pen nib above that line, the bottom of the stroke, and you come in. So this should not touch the bottom. Here goes the G. We start right underneath waistline, come up, scoop around, go back for the second stroke, join, and twist your pen and drag down. You notice I lift the edge of the nib and then I come down. That's how you get that little edge. Now some of these letters have it and some of them don't, but it's okay if you don't put it on. Here comes the O. Right underneath the waistline again, that 30 degrees. Okay, so we're going, that ended the oval group family. So next is going to be the semi-oval family, and we'll do that soon. The next family group is, I refer to it as the semi-oval group, and they are the letters H, P, Q, and T. Well, I'm not sure if you can see this on the video, but underneath each letter, I have numbers here, and that's roughly the width of these letters. That way, you know the proportion of how wide they are. Now, it's not exactly, but it's pretty close. Okay, so let's start with the H again. That start right under the ascender line. In this case, is the ascender descender line because we're starting on the second the second sentence here, the line. Okay, we start with a 30. Come on down. Okay, we come back up about 3/4 of the way up. Come around. Again, constantly keeping your angle at a 30. Now, we go back up to do this what it's called a serif. Come back, again on a 30, and just come on down. Now, it all depending on how fancy you make this, we start going into what they call the Irish Uncial. They get a little bit more decorative and so forth, but the Irish Uncial is based on this particular script of alphabet. Okay, and later on in the video, we're going to decorate a few of these to show you what the Irish Uncial really surpassed all the other Uncials as far as decoration is concerned. Okay, we come back up about 3/4 of the way between your branching line and your waistline. Don't go all the way up. Start. Also note on the P that it doesn't go all the way down to your writing line. Now you can scoop this in one shot, or just to show you I picked up my nib, but you can do it all in one. Come back and join. Now notice there's a gap there, okay? So, and before I forget, come back. Now with the serif, you can either go back here and scoop down, or you can start right about where the branching line is and kind of meet, either way. Okay? You can do it either way, whatever you feel comfortable. Okay, here's the Q. Now the Q doesn't go all the way down like the P either, but it goes a little bit further down, just slightly. But it does not touch that writing line. Okay, we come back up, scoop around, and go down to your descender, ascender line. Okay. All right, so now we have the T, one of the T's, because there's a variation of this T. All the T is really like a C. Come back, go underneath your waistline. Don't do this cross stroke on top. You can, but it's going to distort that letter. Okay? When it comes to decorating some of these letters, then some of these rules are kind of thrown out the window because they get very decorative. Okay, but again, it's based on this alphabet. Okay, so that completes the semi-oval group. Next, we're going to go to the next group, and that's what I call the partially oval. That'll be coming up next. The next group is the partially oval group. Some parts of the letters are a little bit oval. And let's start with the B. Right underneath your waistline, come on down, pick up your nib, 3/4 of the way up, make that scoop, the upper B, come back down, go back to your first stroke, finish, and come up and finish that serif. Here comes the K. Again, underneath that line, which in this case is your ascender-descender line. Come up 3/4 of the way, loop, come on down, finish the stroke, pick up, and finish that serif. Okay, here comes the R. Same thing. Start underneath your guideline, loop. This time I finished that serif first, but it doesn't really matter. Whatever you prefer, whatever's easier for you. Okay, the F is next, right underneath that line. Now, let's finish the serif first, because here, okay, that way you don't have to go back to the serif. Not only that, as you finish the serif, you scoop over with that second stroke. And this cross stroke, remember, it does not touch your writing line. Okay, here comes the S. First stroke, pick up the nib. Go back, finish the second stroke, come up and you can finish the third stroke. Here comes the M. First stroke, go up, come back up, and the little fancy end. Here's the second variation of the M. Second stroke, down, pick up the nib, third stroke, one continuous stroke, and you finish the M. And that's it on the partially oval. The next group of letters is the vertical group, and except for the L, the letters fall between your waistline and your writing line. The L goes up to the ascender line, and the J goes down into the lower portion down to your descender ascender line. Okay, let's start the 30-degree angle. Start your line right underneath the waistline. Come back, do that serif. Now, if it wasn't pointy enough, you can always add a little touch to it. Okay, so again, 30 degrees down, midpoint. It's time to loop around. Come back and finish off that serif. Here's the N. 30 degrees. Go to the other side. Estimate how wide you want that letter to be. Now this stroke that connects the two ends is not a straight stroke. It's like a little bit of a curve here, like a reverse curve. The T, 30 degrees, right underneath your waistline. Come back, and you have like a little loop here. Not a loop, I should say, a little extension on the bottom. Okay, the U. Again, that 30 degrees, start that 30 degrees, loop around, go to the other side, loop around again, and finish off the serifs. As easy as that. Okay, we have the L. Again, start that 30 degrees. You might want to pick up your nib. If you do it only one stroke, fine. If not, it's okay to pick up your nib. Go back up and finish that stroke with your serif. This is not pointed. Okay, so we're going to the next group, which is, I guess I call it the odds and ends. The next group that we have is what I consider odds and ends. So let's get doing them. The first letter would be the A. Again, that 30 degrees. Start underneath your waist line, go down to your writing line, and pick up the nib, second stroke, and arch back to the first. Next one is the V. Again, that 30 right underneath the waistline to the writing line, pick up the nib, and continue with the second stroke. Third one is the W. Start with that 30 degrees, just a little bit of a curve there. Pick up a little bit of a curve again. Pick up, bit of a curve, and swoop down, and pick up the nib. Finish that stroke. Notice that this part does not touch that second stroke. Okay. We got the X is next. Second stroke. Now I did the X that way to show you that this top of the X should not go underneath your branching line. You want this part of the X to be larger than the bottom. Okay? All right. So we have two Y's here. The first one, a little loop. Don't go all the way down to your writing line with that first stroke. Pick up your nib. Nice little gentle curve, a little bit. And this particular Y does not go down to your ascender line. It's about maybe, I don't know, 3/4 of a nib higher than that line. Okay, here's the second Y variation. That first stroke does go down to your writing line. Pick up your nib right underneath your writing line, your waistline I should say, straight down to your ascender line. This Y touches. And last is the Z. So Z starts right underneath your waistline, goes in, and a little bit of a curve, a little bit too much I did, but it's a little bit of a curve. And that completes the alphabet. Next, we're going to start decorating some of these letters to show you how the Irish Uncial really made this alphabet one of the most beautiful alphabets ever in manuscripts. So we'll do that next. Before we start decorating the letters, let me correct something that I said before. On the X, this counter space on the bottom should be larger than the top. I reversed it. I'm trying to correct it now. Hopefully, I didn't mention it anywhere else in the video, but you should know that this counter space is larger than the top. That makes the X kind of stand. So it's time to start decorating the letters. Some of the letters, not all of them, but some of them will. So you choose, well, you can choose any color you want, but the traditional colors that the monasteries, the monks used, not all of them, but here's some of them. You have a orange, or peach here, yellow, could be any shade, blues, any shade of blues, greens, and probably the other major color would be red. Let's see if I can find it. Here we go. We have a red. Okay, so with those colors, what they did, I'm going to start a little bit on here. Here's the plane, and they started to put some colors, not on every letter now, but here and there on the text, they would emphasize certain letters for whatever reason. And in addition to that, they would start putting, for example, on the M, you would have, we started with one color, but now they start with two colors. And here and there, they will put some letters with more than one color. And in addition to that, they would start decorating that even more. And what they did was just a very simple thing. Just put some dots throughout. And let's see if we have one ready with that. Okay, here we go. That way we can speed things up. But so they started to put dots, this one color, and then they added other colors to that, more dots. Eventually, it would end up something like this. This is, I mean, this is I copied this. I can't say it's a great example of it, but you'll get the idea. With these dots, almost like a pointillism, they would put even 2 different colors or even 3 different colored dots, and that kind of blended everything so beautifully together. But when you see the whole text with all these colors, you get a great appreciation of their work. I suggest you look up any of the great manuscripts, but one in particular, the Book of Kells, and that has a lot of beautiful illustration of the Bible. Now, in addition to these colors, they started to they started to stretch out the letters. So this is an H, for example, but they eventually started to loop around. Now, with these letters, here they're basically plain letters, but they added serifs and whirls and twirls and you name it. Well, let's do one here while we have this. Under D, you would have, let's see, I have a drawing of a D. Here we go. This one, this D is the base of this D here. I don't know if I can see it. Okay, so here's your basic D. But now they started to put these twirls, these curves, and now this is where your regular 30-degree angle pen slope goes into a little bit more detail, more filling up the spaces, and it's more of a drawing than a regular letter. If we can finish this letter here, for example, if you come on here, pick up the pen, and so forth. You want to make it a little bit more pointy. So that starts it. And you want to start putting those, well, not with this particular, but maybe with a finer pen, you want to go in and maybe do some other design in there, all around. And you can put those dots. Now you can get lost with all this decoration on these letters. And as you can see on here, they use different colors throughout to emphasize the sentence or whatever the saying was. So hopefully you enjoyed the class, and we'll see you again at some other calligraphy classes, and hope to see you soon. So remember to look back at my other videos just to review the other alphabets, and hopefully you liked it, and make sure you like it on the YouTube. Thank you again. This is Joe Socci, and we'll see you hopefully in the next class. Bye now.